Hello everyone and welcome to our virtual October special event. Today we're going to be preparing butternut squash soup and along with this dish, if you've registered, you will receive ingredients in order to make fried brown bread. And you also have the option of baking it as well. But before we get started, let's smudge. Okay, let's begin with our cooking. So the first thing we're going to do with this dish is cut up the onions, and we're going to cut it really fine in order for them to just dissolve into the soup. So let's get that started. I've already taken the liberty of peeling them. And with this dish, we just want to get them to be really nicely translucent, not brown, because when the finished product, we want to be able to see a very nice, even orange color. Okay, so I have finally cut all my onions and they're really nice and fine, so I'm really happy with them. Now in a large pot, I'm going to add some vegetable oil. And now I'm going to add my onions. Okay, so I am going to add some salt in order to dehydrate them. While the onions are getting nice and translucent, I am going to be cutting the butternut squash. Now, it is not a difficult thing to do, but you have to be careful when cutting it because you don't want to cut yourself, and it's a little bit of an awkward shape in order to get started. But I'm going to show you the way I do it, and eventually we want it to look like this. And it doesn't have to be small because it's the idea is that we're going to boil it down in order for it to really dissolve nicely or just have a little bit of texture, but it should fall apart. So let's get going with the cutting. So I'm going to start with the bottom. Then I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to cut it in the middle. This is great now. So now we're going to cut the sides and go along, being very careful. So the heat on the stove is in between low and medium, and that's exactly where I want it because I want to prevent that browning that I'm talking about. Yeah, so give it a look over, make sure that all of the skin is taken off. That looks great. And now the other side. Okay, so for this bottom part here, we're going to slice it in the middle. And over over here is where it has all these seeds. So you get a spoon and you're just gonna carve it out. And it comes out really nice and clean, if you can see that. And now the other side. And now since they're both ready, we're ready to cut. So this is not a fancy cut. This is just getting the job done. Lay it down flat so it's easier to cut. And now the garlic. I just love recipes that don't require a lot of fuss, because sometimes you don't have the time or the energy in order to provide something beautiful and wholesome for your family. But I feel that this soup is really wonderful because it is reasonably quick and it is very healthy and natural for your family. So it's just a perfect soup. Okay, so our onions are ready. They're nice and translucent, they're not brown. And I'm now going to add the butternut squash. So now it's time to add water. And I'm going to add it right up to where the top of the butternut squash is, not any higher. Need a little bit more. So as of right now, we have the onions, the garlic, the butternut squash, and the water. Now I'm going to add the bouillon and the all-purpose seasoning. Okay, so the soup is now on high and we are going to boil it down for about 40 minutes and we're gonna take a look at it then. Okay, so it's been about 40 minutes and I've just checked on the soup and the butternut squash is soft. I've tasted the broth and I'm really liking where it's going. So now we have two options. One is using a hand blender in order to puree all the ingredients, or you could use a potato masher. So of course with the puree it will be very creamy, and with the potato masher there will be a little bit of chunks and texture in the soup. However, the taste is the same and both very nice. So I am going to be using a potato masher in order to smooth out my soup. So here we go. Oh, and I just want to show you that it is nice and chunky at this moment. But with the potato masher, after doing this for a couple minutes, it's going to be more runny, and the pieces of the butternut squash are going to just fall apart. This may take just a little bit of time. Okay, so it's time to serve. I mashed it as best as I could. And it has a little bit of texture, but I'm very happy with it. What I'm going to do is just add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper, and then this will be ready to enjoy. So as you can see here, the soup looks absolutely lovely. I hope that you enjoy this with your family, and take care everyone. Bye-bye.